such, and they're hiring them to do level
This
design.
is the panel you don't
awesome.
want to miss.
It's been a while since I've heard Emmanuel Echo done. He's a guy who used to host a party in downtown, like Culver City, called Funkmosphere. His name is Dame Funk. I used to like work with him, and he was like the master of the like echo. Just like in the middle of like 80s disco. It was an amazing night every Monday night. Oh man. That said, people should not sit in tables in the back. That's whack.
Yeah, let's
Feels kind of like a wedding.
put a shout out to the people in the hallway. Come on down.
Come on in.
I plan on having fun on this panel. I'm just letting you all know.
Good afternoon and welcome, everybody. We're here at the fabulous Skirball in sunny Los Angeles, California, coming to you live. My name is Michael Lambie. I'm going to be your moderator today. We're closing it down. It's the 4 o'clock shift. Everyone's a little bit tired and a little bit fussy. So
Bar's not open yet, so don't even.
bar, yes, that's a good point. The bar will be open in 1 hour. We'll be the first ones there. I'd just like to take a second just to reiterate what the panel we're going to be talking about. And we're really just talking about the emergence of gaming influencers, especially as it relates to YouTube, Twitch, and live streaming. So we'll cover a few different things about the stories of our panelists here. I'd like to introduce our panelists. Let's see. I'll introduce them from myself to the end. First, I have Niles Heron here. He's the CSO of PopDog. Mari Takahashi, who is co-founder of Smosh Games. Sorry, Chris, I just said I was going to go in order, and then I just skipped
How dare you, really?
All right. This is confusing, because he was moderating the last panel here, so I might have thought that he was like standing behind me. So Chris Saint of Saint Piercing, and he does some live gaming as well. And then we have Brian Foster, who's Senior Director of Creators at Mob Crush.
How you doing?
Let me hear you.
It's my crew.
But I said, did you bring them with you? Like,
You did. They're over there.
So,
rock out.
to kick it off, we're just going to do some introductions. We're going to hear from our panelists a little bit about who they are. We'll answer a few things. You might say, introduce yourself, your name, who you are, where you live, what you love to do, and we'll start with maybe what kind of live streaming platforms that you enjoy or are using at all right now. And then we'll have a second section of the introductions. We'll ask you a couple more questions. So, Niles, would you mind if I kicked it off with you?
No, go ahead, but you're going to need to give me those questions one by one. I'm very.
So just tell us who you are, a little bit about where you live. What?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Niles Heron. I'm one of the co-founders and chief strategy officer of a company called PopDog. We own a talent management firm for Twitch influencers mostly called Loaded. And then we also own an analytics platform for Twitch data called NoScope. And I live in Detroit, Michigan, born and raised in Detroit, Michigan, despite some stints other places. One of my favorite things to do these days is to think about how the content in actually both Twitch and YouTube ecosystems could be better and more compelling in terms of, I think, some of the content structure and quality actually makes it harder for people who are not ingrained in the ecosystem to really like dive in and get involved with it. So most of my work is on Twitch, but I think a lot about the space.
Right, thanks.
Nice. My name's Chris Saint. I was here for the last panel too, so hey, you guys have already heard me say this. I play video games every single day online. I signed up with the Facebook Level Up Creator Content Program, but non-exclusively, which is kind of my rant. And my rant is all about not signing anything exclusively and using the Mob Crush sensibility. I'm actually, and I'm going to crap all up, sorry. I'm actually partnered with a company called Restream out of the Ukraine, and what it does, it does it in the same kind of way that Mob Crush does, where it splits your stream up, multicasts it, using only the same upload. So you can still upload for like 4,000 kbs, get a good quality stream, but then it splits it over all the networks. You get a unified chat client, so you can see what people are saying in all of them, and that's what I do. So what I did was signed on non-exclusively with one company, and then still stream to all the other ones to kind of hedge my bets, see if one of the other ones took off. So that's what I do.
I might also add to, did you mention the piercing? Not the digital piercing,
Oh, yeah.
people with digital
And
bullets.
what I do is I do this while I'm body piercing out of a tattoo shop on Vine and Melrose. So I body pierce at a tattoo shop on Vine and Melrose for 8 hours a day, and the tattoo shop's in the background, and then when I do a piercing, I switch the camera so you can see the piercing live, and then I'm like, cool, that guy's got his nose piercing, let's get back to some Fortnite. So that's pretty much my day. So yeah, I'm doing 12 things at once. It's
Piercing
fun.
bodies online and piercing bodies in person.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mari.
Hi, I'm Mari Takahashi. I've been creating content on YouTube for about 9 years now and co-founded Smosh Games. I'm a San Francisco Bay Area native and I now live in LA. And when I'm not playing video games, I'm focused on stunt training and motivating our audience continuously to play video games and also go out there and do it in real life as well, and move your bodies as much as you might do that in a game.
I like the sound of that. I like motivating audiences. Let's see you guys. I see a lot of motivation out there. Thank you for that.
How you doing? I'm Brian Foster, Senior Director of Creators at Mob Crush. While I'm not trying to make the most delightful experience for all of our creators that are working in our restreaming platform, I am living in West Hollywood playing video games basically every day as well. I'm creating no content for that at all, unfortunately, and I have no piercings. Maybe I'll talk to Chris about that to change that.
How did this become the piercing panel?
You are now the piercing person.
Okay, I'll
Appreciate
do
it.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Before we start into the meat of the panel here, I'd like to ask the audience if you could just raise your hand if you consume live streaming content. Any hands for people who watch live streaming content on any platform? And I won't count like news on cable TV, but like on a social platform. Okay, that's some good hands. Now, how many of you stream your own live content? Okay, few hands. How many of you are gamers? Okay, a couple more hands there.
That's a lie.
And how many of you?
No. Y'all are lying.
Candy Crush counts.
Candy Crush.
Mobile games, yeah.
That totally
mobile
counts.
games
Do you
count.
Totally
have a
counts,
game
yes.
installed on your phone of any sort? Just Twitter? That's the only app? Okay. All right. No,
Crossword puzzles, Sudoku.
Wrong audience. There's only 2.2 billion people on the planet that. Okay, it's fine.
That's right. Pretty much everyone's a gamer these days. How many of you consume live streaming gaming content? Okay, that's cool. And how many of you actually stream your own live gaming content? Okay, cool. All right, well, let's get to know who we're talking to here. I want to just ask, go down the line here real quick too, and we'll start with Brian. And I'd just like to ask too right now, what's your favorite game right now that you're playing?
Ooh, right now. That's interesting. I'm actually playing the old Castlevania collection that just came out on the Switch, so I'm playing the old school 8-bit stuff. Yeah, it's great. And Mortal Kombat, obviously. I can't get enough of that game.
Cool.
Right now I'm playing Astroneer, which is kind of like Minecraft in space. But that was after many, many long hours of Red Dead Redemption 2.
Cool.
Got you. I don't know if it's because I enjoy it or because that's where the streaming money is, but I'm just playing Fortnite constantly, all day, every day online. And now I've gotten to the arena section, so now I have to continue.
Welcome.
Right? Ooh. What division are you? What's going on?
I don't play Fortnite.
Well, get out of here. All right.
Counter-Strike forever, always.
Ooh, yeah.
Cool.
That's it.
All right. We'll get into talking more about live streaming. Understanding that the relationship with a content creator and their audience is an important one to grow a brand and a channel. How do you see the difference between your relationship with an audience in live streaming versus like this kind of static or VOD content, as opposed to like you have a list of comments versus chatter in real time? And I might even just take it one step further to say, is the community amongst themselves different on a live stream because it's real-time chat versus a comment thread, which tends to be more static? Anyone? This is open for anyone.
Sure, I'll start. I think as a live streamer and as a content creator in that sense, there's a lot of responsibility of what you're saying, and that's a consistent thing that happens second by second. And you know, it comes to a point where when brands are working with content creators, it's kind of I think an important thing for brands to understand that they should do some stalking and make sure that they are working with a content creator who's responsible and knows what they're doing and has experience in the space. As far as communities go on live streaming and how different that is, I think that communities are built in real time, almost like outside of the person who's streaming. They'll have their own conversations as an audience that may or may not be contributing to the thing that the streamer is talking about, and that's perfectly awesome. It's actually how communities really thrive within themselves. I might be talking about you know, the video game that I'm playing. The audience might be talking about BTS's newest music video, and that's totally great because now there's a community of BTS members who are somehow attached to my content as well, and that's always like a really good thriving audience, and I think that should always be cultivated.
I think there's challenges too. You know, there's the challenge of saying the right thing at the right time without being able to edit that out. So like in a VOD, you can always edit things out. You can make quick cuts, almost a shorter video and get right to the point. But in that more genuine tone, I think that you're going to see a much more beneficial reaction and engagement from your community when it is live. And when you can answer things in a one-to-one, right on real-time position, yeah.
I would just say I think that in the, I don't live stream, but I always liken it to the difference between being a stand-up comic and a comedian in movies, right? I mean, just in terms of to the exact point you're making, right? But the skill set to hold court and be captivating and engaging for a 6-hour block is a very different skill set, and I think is really beneficial for what I'm going to call first window content, i.e. like when it happened live. And I think that that gives you the most content that you can then edit and distill down into your second and tertiary and kind of quaternary windows in terms of where you're placing things that can then be monetized, right? So that's usually how I think about it, but that's because I sit there and look at monetization all day on other people's content that I don't generate. So
Nice.
I can't imagine how hard it would be, let alone to play video games with any level of proficiency, especially when you're in like a real-time strategy with other people playing, and then you're also chatting and holding a conversation. I think
It's a skill.
it is.
Yeah, it's one eye on that chat. It's getting that chat room as close to the other screen as possible, so you just your head's bouncing between the two. But
There's many times my friends at home will ask me, so these guys make money just playing video games? And I'm like, no, these guys are doing 3 things at once, and like 3 intense things at once. They're playing a game, they're talking, they're commenting, they're moderating sometimes their chat too. I mean, those are all jobs in itself.
effectively producing, right?
100%.
That's really cool. And I know we talked about a few of the streaming platforms, but what do you think are I think Twitch did a lot for paving the way for streaming as a genre and as an accepted social medium, and gaming certainly as a genre that has propelled the live streaming platform. But what platforms are you watching right now or participating with? Are you doing a lot of Twitch? I know with Mob Crush you get a little bit of the best of all worlds, and splitting your streams clearly for more audience is great. But what platform has been the most beneficial to you from a social platform?
Social, the newest one, which has surprised the crap out of me. Like, I sit there on YouTube and I'll spend 2 days editing a video and having it look pretty and putting graphics on it, only sometimes to get like 10,000 views or something. And I'm like, you know what? That's 10,000 views. That's great. And then a couple months ago, I was like, all right, this TikTok thing's getting real big, man. I better go on that. So I started a TikTok account, and I've been messing around with putting the gaming videos on there, and then I've got a real weird piercing thing in my hand. I put a 15-second video of that, not produced, kind of blurry. All of a sudden, 200,000 views. So now I have to stand up and actually take notice of that platform. And it's surprising how many things, if you just like TikTok, I honestly feel that's the way to go now, but like TikTok, if you think it's a throwaway thing, if you think it's a frivolous thing, why not just try and understand the audience, and maybe it'll just blow up in your face like that.
Cool. It's good to be experimental.
It's weird.
Anyone else want to add anything on that or on?
Yeah, I mean, I think with that, there's a really good example of figuring out what audience is expecting what. Because each platform is very different. What you might put on TikTok might not be the same thing that you put on Instagram. So it's a matter of figuring out the tastes of each platform and that audience that thrives on that. I'm not particular to any one platform right now. Smosh Games has been on the Facebook gaming platform as well as YouTube gaming, but I'm keeping my eye out for Stadia and the way that can be integrated with live streaming.
And real quick, can you just talk a little bit more about Sega?
Yeah, so Stadia is coming out through Google, and it's going to be cloud gaming along with being able to pause your games in a way that audience members can come in and play along with you or pick up your game. So it's kind of like having somebody within your audience come in, like play for you. Let's say you've been trying to do the same level over and over and over again, and Johnny374 is like, hey, I've done this, I can do it for you, and then you're like, all right, audience member, go on in there. So it's a really interesting new way of interacting, and I don't know when it's going to be released, but it's interesting.
They're just looking to do for games what Netflix did to DVDs. So they're looking to not have the physical console or the disc in your home. You basically just download an app on your TV, and then you're streaming the game through the app on the TV. And no one's actually sure if the infrastructure can handle it, but everyone's, if you've ever played games on a cloud-based system, it doesn't feel as responsive if you've used things like PS4 Remote Play. You know how hell it can be. So everyone's just waiting to see if this thing will actually work.
It's also that next logical step of engagement with your community. If they can step in and play a game with you, that is 10 steps further than just answering a comment.
Yeah. Now, I'd be interested to know, as a live streamer, have you ever experimented with doing live events or live engagements, whether it's a live taping or, just interested to understand how you might engage communities in the physical or in IRL, in real life, as it were? If you've tried that, if that sounds like, if that doesn't work, if it does work?
It for sure works.
Does it add value to it as a streaming creator, do you think?
I would let the streaming creators answer that from their personal standpoint, but from a business standpoint, we've seen tremendous success with Ninja is one of our biggest clients. Well, Ninja is our biggest client because Ninja is Ninja, but like his live events consistently draw 2, 3, 4 times the viewership online, as well as the added value of a live engagement in terms of all of the other monetization opportunities, whether that's merch or other product that you're working through. It's one of the most valuable positions that we see in terms of events.
Cool.
Yeah, I think with live, it's cool because it's like if any one of us met our favorite celebrity, it's kind of like, oh my God, you are real. Oh my gosh, you are, like you meet, I don't know why I'm using Adam Sandler, but like you meet Adam Sandler and it's like, oh my God, you really are funny in real life. It's like, it's that sort of feeling where you watch somebody playing video games on a screen for so long and you see them in real life and it's, somebody as proficient as Ninja. He can do it in real time, in real life.
Right.
Or it's, more of a comedic, entertaining streamer and they have jokes here, there, like they're on it. And so being able to go through that together is a completely new experience for audiences. And for us, since we're a group dynamic at Smosh Games, Jackbox games has always been a really, really great way to engage with our audiences because the audience gets to play along on their cell phones. And if you've never played Jackbox, it's a great party game just for, if you have a few friends over and things like that. But people in the immediate audience can play, people who are live streaming and watching in can also play at the same time, and then we've got our crew on stage playing. So that's been a really fun way to engage and feel like we're all playing together.
Very cool. Now we're going to talk a little bit about working with brands and live streaming. We've heard some comments about how working in real time when you're live, you don't have the safety of the editing suite to just kind of edit out your missteps, your gaps, any kind of audio issues. So What do you think, in your opinion, makes live streaming an attractive medium for advertisers and brands?
Well, I think it's new, first of all, and it's very exciting. It's not new, but it's new to brands, and they're very excited about it, so that's a great thing. Plus, that whole event that's created, that buzz, that one spike in activity, I think that's very attractive. For instance, we had a campaign with Mortal Kombat. It just was released, and it was released on a Tuesday. We commissioned a bunch of streamers to play it on that day, and it ended up being one of the top streamed games on Twitch. And it was that one moment in time that these brands could connect with, and with the audience in a live setting. I think that's great.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always worried about just answering a bunch of questions that other people would be better with. So, I think that one of the biggest challenges for brands is the first piece that you mentioned. When you take away the comfort of effectively an unknown commodity, them not even having a quality control checkpoint. It's one of the biggest things that I hear from brands on a day-to-day basis, actually, in terms of just why are you not in the space in a more real way. A big part of it is you could say anything. I don't know what I want my brand associated with that. Even the sort of false separation of I sponsored video 1, you said some crazy stuff in video 7. It's separated. There is an actual wall between those content points, but if you're streaming for 6 hours, it's just as likely that you're going to say something nuts in hour 5 after an hour 2 call out for whatever brand you're dealing with. And I think a lot of brands are getting their head around the fact that there isn't an expectation, no matter what you think, or no matter what they think, that the brand is synonymous with the content. The viewers know that you aren't. If I say something crazy, as long as it's not, hey, kick all dogs that you see, use Uber Eats, right? As long as that's not literally what I'm saying, and then PETA's calling me and all that. As long as that's not really what happens, no one expects the brand you called out on hour 1 to be associated with the content you produce in hour 5. So I think people are starting to get over that, but it's a huge hurdle. It's a huge hurdle for people making big spends, and I think big spends are going to fundamentally change the way this space is operating as they continue to come in.
Yeah, I think you could compare that to television, where you could say if you have children's programming at 6 o'clock and then there's a little racier program at 10 o'clock.
It is
are you,
very
as an
much
advertiser,
like
are you going to bail because
Right.
at 10 o'clock there might be some subjective or suggestive material?
It's that, and I think that as brands integrate more into the space, they get more comfortable with the model and the value, to your point, of the peak of activity around live. I mean, if you ask anybody in the world what place they would like to be in a line, they want to be first. No one wants to be 45th in line anywhere. Much the same, people want to view content as it happens. The older the content gets, especially in a world that is 2019 and there's 50 new videos every second posted to every platform, the farther back you are, the less relevant it feels, because there's so much new content all the time. So there is nothing that is more immediate than live. And in that regard, the brand call-outs, the engagements, the actual methodology by how people are interacting is way more powerful than what you see in a VOD, because it feels organic and happening right now with you, as opposed to you just consuming it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and on that, about it being organic, I think live streaming is really attractive to brands because it's essentially a conversation that a streamer gets to have with their audience. And this is an audience that, a streamer speaks to for 8 hours a day or 5 days a week or whatever that schedule is. But it's a candid conversation. Their candor is a little bit more like, oh, hey, we're back on the phone again. What's up? I've got something to talk to you about. And I think that is something very attractive for brands. With that said, working with a streamer that is a pro is very different, because I think when they're able to hit all the key points, not miss a step, continue having, hour 3, they're going to say the same sort of copy again, and then at hour 5, and then at hour 8, and they're on that, that is someone you want to work with. That's
Absolutely.
A pro. And in this space, it's really interesting because it's all still new. So I think it's imperative for brands to, again, do their digital stalking, make sure they're working with a pro. How many brands has that person worked with? do they have other brands that vouch for them?
How many have they lost?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like, are the people who are betting on the engagements this person creates, are they turning those engagements over? Are those becoming real sales and real ROI for the advertiser or the sponsor?
And ROI is always a very interesting thing, right? Because there's no correlation yet. It's the same thing as like, well, how much ROI does that billboard have? But that
Except that we can
billboard
track downloads and we can track engagements based on when the timestamp happened of the actual brand call out. And you can actually see those peaks and valleys based on a lot of that stuff. It's a big part of the analytics stuff that I think is going to change the way we do
For
stuff.
sure. And I think it'll continue changing too.
For sure.
It's interesting.
Yeah, there is no answer though. You know,
Speaking of return on value and ROI for brands and advertisers, Ninja, for instance, he helped a video game launch in a quite successful and fantastic way.
What? No comment. No, I'm joking.
Can you? I don't know. Can you talk about that at all?
I don't know which
Oh, okay. So when he did he did something. It was Apex. 24-hour streaming. He apparently, I don't know, suggested in the press that maybe he got paid $1 million, but he got it to be the most downloaded game or something, or most sold game, something around those lines.
So listen, I am always in the business of promoting my clients. However, I would not say that he got Apex to be the most downloaded game. They did pay him to play. That's a big part of business for most of my clients, frankly. You know, if I break down my business unit's revenue, greater than 40% is coming from game devs often, right? Because the best way to show somebody what a new game plays like isn't a trailer. It's watching someone else play it who you know their gameplay. Like someone who watches Ninja play Apex has also watched Ninja play Fortnite, has also watched Ninja play DayZ, has also watched Ninja play H1Z1, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They have a familiarity with that person's play style, and more importantly, they can map their play style, they can map Ninja's play style against their own. Right? So if I've watched Ninja play Counter-Strike and I play Counter-Strike, I understand, I have a familiarity with the way he moves in that game. I can understand what that is going to feel like for me to some degree, right? Cool, yeah. When he plays Apex, it's a great example of what it's going to feel like to me if I understand that he's a 10 and I'm a 6. I can just subtract 4 when I watch Apex 2, right? So it ends up being that kind of a model, and these are people whose opinions I trust, whose content I consume on a daily basis, whether it's Ninja or Shroud or Tim the Tatman or Lyric or Summit, or any of the people that we rep over at Loaded, right? That model is really compelling, and it really does drive downloads. It really does drive engagement. It really does drive game sales and playtime. So yeah, Ninja got paid to play Apex. He did not single-handedly make Apex a success. Apex, the team at EA, I think it's EA, Activision EA, EA. They did a great job of putting Apex together, and in fact, they engaged with a bunch of our streamers 6 months, 8 months before the game came out and said, hey guys, what are your pointers? You play games all day. We make games all day, but we don't play them all day. Like, tell us how we can make this game better. That was actually what made Apex successful, in my opinion. Cool. Not that Ninja played it on day one. That said, anybody else who's releasing a game, come pay us, we'll play it. It's fine, right? Like, I'm not trying to stab my own business model here, but it was the diligence they did that I think made them successful.
Cool. From a bystander's point, because one of the main things I consume is Twitch, and when you log on to Twitch and you hit that browse section, it tells you which game is being played the most.
Yep.
And usually that's at around, I might be wrong, 200,000, 300,000.
Oh, I mean, it depends. But yeah.
Yeah, it hits that thing. But that's what makes it so important when the game comes to someone like Ninja and they go, hey, will you play a game for 24 hours when it comes out? Yeah, it doesn't turn into downloads, but it does turn into that game on his subscriber count alone being the most played game on that network.
Yep.
So it doesn't directly go to downloads, but it does go to you having that top spot, which makes people go, I haven't heard of this game before. And then what I did was like, cool, I'm going to download that game because it's obviously the newest, most popular thing. So did they buy the downloads? No, but did they buy the step towards it? Yeah.
And I guess my point was that after that initial rollout, which I think was phenomenal, I think Apex and their team did a great job with it, but they had 50 million downloads in the first 2 weeks or something like that.
Yeah.
That's because the game was great. Because we've had let me tell you something, a lot of people have paid us to play their games and never hit 50 million downloads. because you get the viewership, and then frankly, if the streamers don't want to continue playing the game, then you bought a night on Twitch, and great. Maybe that was what you needed to break even.
And we're not talking about the old days where 50 million downloads translates as $60 per game. This is a free game that's going out.
Right.
And it's actually costing the company on server space and server stress to put that game out to 50 million people and only having a small amount of monetization to start, which they did.
Exactly.
So they're making a huge bet on putting this game out for free and then paying to have their servers overloaded for the first 2 days. That they're eventually, the game's going to have that longevity and sustain itself.
And so without the great gameplay, a launch like that is not anywhere near as valuable. We saw the same thing with Call of Duty, though, which was a $60 game.
Which then,
Hey,
So for all of our aspiring live streamers out there, if you get approached to stream for any amount of time over 8 hours, should you ask for time and a half after that point?
wait, you were being sponsored and we're getting 8 hours and then?
that's like a joke question?
Bad
or
joke, bad joke.
I just wasn't sure, because like we could talk about the fact that employment in this space is a super interesting issue. I mean, that's a...
It's like anything else. It's like, I keep saying it's like running a telethon. You've got to be like, I might have the measurements wrong, but every 20 to 30 minutes I'm welcoming new people to the room. If we're on a subject, you got to constantly remind people why you're there. Like, hey, people are rotating in and out, so you've got to be like, it's like a telethon. You're like, hey guys, if you just joined us, this is what we're doing, because if you don't tell them that, they're not going to know. I'm not sure how I got onto that, but I'm sure I had a point.
I think it was a very great point. I appreciate
I
it.
thought it was a great.
Yeah, it's the overtime.
Proud of you.
So I know we've been talking mostly around gaming, so just ask this one question about live streaming content in general, but what other content types are you seeing outside of gaming that are succeeding in live? Or do you see a room for other formats?
Just chatting IRL. I think that it can start transcending way past games at this point, but I think that IRL is just as good as a gamer waiting in a lobby talking to their audience. Like, it's still that face-to-face conversation. It's just they're probably not going to be playing a game after they just have that discussion. Yeah.
Yeah. Chat rooms came back too. Discord came around, and all of a sudden we're not posting on message boards. We have a live chat room, which is a kind of a live experience for everybody, which is nuts. I didn't see that one coming.
Oh, that's cool. And when I asked too, when you're working with brands or packaging brands, I mean, clearly we've talked about using live streaming gaming content to sell games, but what other industry verticals for brands and products are you able to also sell in addition to that have done well outside of just selling gaming content?
Well, right at the start, right before Twitch got real crazy popular, I was Meltdown Comics in Hollywood, God rest its soul, doing live streaming for a network called XSN, which was way ahead of its time. And what they were doing, they were using things like Twitch alerts, so you would watch the screen, and you'd be doing a kind of a QVC style program. You'd be selling something like hard sell, and then when that product sold, it would appear on the screen, and it's like, Michelle from Connecticut just bought this thing you're selling, and then the room would go apeshit for a second. And I honestly think that was so ahead of its time that that's going to come back. It's going to be, there's already companies like Network doing it, and it's, Ninja did one, right? Yeah? It was you're standing there live streaming IRL, like he was saying, but you're actually selling the product, and as people are buying it, you're seeing it go off in the corner. And that's been so exciting, and I think there's going to be money in that.
Oh yeah, we did a charity drive. It was for St. Jude.
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I think there's so much room for like gaming parallels, I'd say. Like we just did a video with the cast of Godzilla, and there is no actual Godzilla video game out there, but there's a lot of crappy ones out there that have a lot of like kaiju and like big like monsters and things in it. So we basically just played a real crap game from the early 2000s on PS2 with the cast of Godzilla, and they absolutely loved it. So I think that it's always being gaming adjacent. It doesn't have to be that exact video game, but on Smosh Games we always like to see how there's parallels in real life. You know, like we could, there was a time where we were working with Old Spice, and instead of just, you know, there's no Old Spice video game out there, but we would try to emulate the things that you could do with like the in an Old Spice commercial. And so there's always ways to creatively think about how to use a brand and gamify that, as opposed to finding just the video games to play.
Did you guys ever play a game called Darwin Project?
Yeah.
It's like a battle royale game, but the interesting thing about that to me was you had I think it was it 10 people in the game or 9 people, and then one person was a director, and it was kind of like the Hunger Games where, yeah, everyone's fighting to the death, but there's one person that's a non-gaming person that isn't playing the game. They don't have to have any skill, and that person is shutting down zones, putting bounties on people's heads. And that was really interesting to me from a non-gaming point to have somebody
like
involved
a dungeon master.
Yeah, they were involved in the live stream, but they didn't have to be good at the game. It could be just this like maniacal 6-year-old that hates everybody that's just going nuts.
And I think that's everybody who ever was that person, a maniacal 6-year-old.
But it was such a weird concept. So I can see that coming through more too.
Also, not taking for granted sandbox games. This wasn't a branded deal, but after I was on my season of Survivor, we did an entire season of Minecraft surrounding a made-up Survivor-esque game within Minecraft. And so we had our cast of 6 basically voting each other off every week after a set of different games that you could play within Minecraft that we created.
I think that the brands that we see engaging meaningfully in the space seems to get broader and broader every day. So whether you're looking at Samsung, Uber Eats, Red Bull, lifestyle brands like Adidas and Nike are starting to play much more heavily. Of course, Uber Eats, Postmates, Grubhub, which fits very comfortably because if you're sitting there on a computer and you don't want to get off that computer, but you need to eat because you're a human, then like it's, you know, we had a whole conversation about microwaves in the lobby, same thing.
Sedentary lifestyle brands.
Yeah, sedentary lifestyle. But also, I think that you're starting to see car companies really step in and play interestingly. I think as more people recognize that like the sheer volume of content being produced by this vertical is obscene. And so it's human stuff now, not just gaming stuff. Like more people spent time watching Ninja between March 30th of 18 and September 30th of 18 than all of the people in all of the theaters in America spent watching Black Panther. Like by 3 billion minutes.
Crazy.
At that volume, it's not about playing after gamers anymore. It's about playing after what is being consumed. Tide is about to buy spots.
Yeah, it's been nuts. I mean, now we're getting to the point where we're sat in bars, in sports bars, and there are a million TVs. And now it's getting to the point where I see at least one of them, and I'm like, oh, there's like a gaming channel on that one. I saw a HyperX commercial while I was sat at a Tex-Mex bar in North Hollywood the other night. I'm like, that is not something I thought I would see.
Right.
But it's, it goes, Mob Crush has Mob Crush TV, where it's an actual TV. It's not, you're not downloading the app on your smart TV. You're going through the channels, and it's one of the channels. And then you switch that channel on, and some lucky gamer is on the TV. They're actually on a TV channel. It's
And they
great.
love to be featured. They love it.
Yeah, it's great.
Rad. Speaking of just kind of the growth of the category as a whole, do you think esports has been helpful at all? And with the coverage, sports coverage, I think ESPN even covers some live gaming events on TV.
The dramatization of the teams is, the standout stars, but the dramatization of the teams, making them wear sports jerseys almost, putting them in a setting that people can understand in an ESPN way has been great, I think.
The coverage itself is really fun too. You know, it's almost more exciting than some NBA games and football games. You know, the shoutcasters and stuff make it exciting. It's great for TV, but the production value is some like ABC does it now through ESPN. It's unbelievable.
It's nuts.
I also think it adds a hierarchy to any gaming vertical, right? Like I always think, like I'm a basketball guy. You can't tell because I'm fat, but I am. And like, if I didn't know that LeBron James was the same species as me, I would think he was cheating online. Like I would be like, you're hacking. Like this is not fair. But I do know that he is, right? He has some things that I can't do. Gaming, of course, normalizes all that because there's like LeBron can go over, I got to go left or right. You know, but like in a game, I can do all of that, right? But the person who is best at the game still defines what greatness is in that game. Even if I don't want to watch it all the time, there's a hierarchy of any game you spend a lot of time playing, you want to be better at it, right? Understanding how good you can be at a game allows you something to aspire to and actually gets you more wrapped into the ecosystem of that game. Anytime you start taking it to any sort of competitive level, i.e. you're not just playing casually for 3 hours one time, this is something you want, like you play for days and weeks and months. Like, knowing how good you can be matters. And so esports really matters in that regard, in terms of, I think, making the depth of each game's player base able to be something they can invest in.
Yeah, even having national teams that you can resonate to. You're like,
Yeah.
that is the English team, that is the London team, that is, yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a validation there. I think, sports is timeless. It's something that our great-grandfathers know about. It's our grandmas know ESPN. It's like, it's this, almost like this lineage of things that people validate as like, oh, that's legitimate. And to have like a ninja on ESPN magazine, like on the cover,
Right.
I think that is something that is really exciting for the gaming industry. It legitimizes us. And for the first time, I think it's seeping into an industry that may or may not have made sense to transcend. But you mentioned something that was really interesting, where gaming kind of normalizes people, and I think that's really neat, because I know a lot of sports people play a lot of video games,
Crazy.
and I think it speaks to the point that gaming brings people together, and I think it's really cool. Like, you could pick up a game with Shaq, or you can play a video game with, I don't know, Obama. Like video games bring us to a point where we just like to have fun. We can act like kids, and we can get real competitive, like little third graders, and just, like talk crap to each other.
Scream and throw the controller.
Yeah, and it's dope, because on any other scale, like, I don't know, it's hard to get on that level with somebody who is in a completely different industry, or, like a top celebrity or whatever. And I think that's something so unique and so cool about video games.
There are very few level playing fields in the world. Whether you want to talk about race or sex or culture, whether you want to talk about language, any of the reasons that, like, in any moment that you interact with somebody, there's a power dynamic, and everybody in the room knows that happens in your life. That doesn't exist in gaming. It's just about how much time you've been there. It's just about how much time you've put in. It's just about how, yes, there's some hand-eye coordination stuff, right? But generally speaking, if you and I play Smash, there's nothing that stops you from beating me or me from beating you, other than who's better at that game in that moment. But it's a level playing field.
Yeah.
There aren't very many meritocracies in this country, in this world right now.
Yeah.
And gaming really allows for that kind of thing, and that actually generates more camaraderie than it does competition in a lot of ways, because you don't feel slighted.
For sure.
And on that same tip too, there's no holding of access. So a lot of these top esports people, a lot of these even celebrities, like, there's a chance you can get into a Fortnite lobby, you get into that game, and you're playing against Dylan Francis and Ninja.
Yeah.
And, like, they're not on their own servers. Everyone's playing on public servers. So there's just a chance you could meet one of these people in the game world anyway, which is crazy.
Right. If I knew LeBron played at my local gym, I would be in better shape. I'd be in better shape. That's all I'm saying.
I just wanted to say, so I think we could all agree that we'd probably wish the Lakers drafted Ninja over LeBron at this point.
Oh, man.
Nah.
Ninja was
Nah,
involved
LeBron's the second best player of all time, man. I'm taking LeBron. I'm going to be honest with you.
So we're almost at time. The good news is, in an unprecedented act of the digital Hollywood, our microphones will be cut in about 30 seconds.
Boom.
We will be able to do Q&A, and our panelists have agreed to ask your questions so we could get more time, more content with you, the audience. I know I saw some hands out there, so you'll be able to ask your question. First, I'd just like to say we'll do the Q&A, but just while the microphones are on, get a show of appreciation for having everyone out here today. I know I enjoyed myself. So now we'll start with the questions, and we'll talk on microphones as long as we have them, and then we'll project with our real human voices afterwards. I know
It'll be IRL.
Yeah, I know we had a few questions up the middle here. We'll start with the first one, and then we'll go to the gentleman behind you. Yeah, you're in the suit. Yep.
There is a movement from Japan. It's called VTubers. There are virtual characters, like anime characters,
Yeah.
playing games and all. It's really taking off in Asia. But what do you guys think about that movement here in the States?
So we're talking about VTubers. This is characters in Japanese video games, gaming, live streaming gaming content.
Is it actual, because I'm not too familiar with this, is it avatars with like mocap where there's an actual actor behind it, or is it completely AI?
Oh no, it's an actor, someone anonymous, someone that does not want to show their real face.
But they still show the
Gotcha.
personality, right? Yeah.
That's crazy.
I think that that's great. I think that any form you take as like a visual, it's always going to be your personality that comes through anyway. And so I think if your personality is great, no matter what your avatar looks like, it should be a great video or a great piece of content.
Yeah.
I've been watching cartoons for a long time.
Yeah, I think although not with an actual person behind it, Hatsune Miku is like a really good example of capturing a certain market that would rather see an avatar over a real person. And the amount of people who go to Hatsune Miku concerts is incredible, how engaged people are. So I think that there's an absolute niche for it. I don't know if it'll compare, I don't know. I think there's an absolute niche for it, yeah. I don't think it'll conquer humans just yet.
I hope not.
And the gentleman, yeah, right
Be out of a
behind-
job.
Given some of the scenarios you've talked about with esports and live streaming and brand deals, what's the dream scenario for you guys individually over the next 2 years? What do you think what's the biggest opportunity?
Oh man, I feel like I've achieved one of them. Somebody's paying me salary to play video games at my other job where I'm still getting paid. Like, that's crazy. Like, to me, if somebody's giving me anything for playing video games, I'm happy. Right?
I mean, that for you. Listen,
He's like, no,
I'm running a business over here, so like I think that as in the next 2 years, what I expect to happen is that there are a lot of false walls and borders put around quote gaming. It's digital interactive media for the exact reason for the VTubers you just mentioned, right? I mean, like, it's content. It's the consumption of content on an interactive platform. I think that we're going to see fewer this is gaming discussions and more this is content discussions. And as soon as we stop thinking about it just as being gaming, live streaming is reality TV, guys, except it's actually real. It's the only difference. And so I think that we're going to see we're going to see it spreading more widely. Right? I don't think that it needs to just live on Twitch or YouTube. Love both platforms, but I don't think that those are always going to be the homes for this kind of quote content, because it's not just gaming. And I think that we're going to see more opportunities as a result of that. Most of what I do day to day is trying to figure out where there's an opportunity to make an album or to make a TV show or to be on podcasting, and to figure out, like, just breaking down the barriers, because all of it is media that people consume. It's just about, kind of where they are when they want to consume it, more than it is about the actual creation of it in a lot of ways.
Yeah, my girlfriend brought this up. She was talking about how Twitch's biggest strength might be a weakness in the fact that it was first there for gaming, and it's so synonymous with gaming that it actually has things like talk shows, IRL, music streaming on it now, where you can people do creative music. But at the same time, a lot of people, you go, hey, are you on Twitch? And they go, oh, I don't play games. And you're like,
Right.
there's so much other content on there that maybe it's going to take one of those companies being like, yeah, Twitch is purple, but also we have Twitch this color, which is like splitting it up almost.
Yeah, like blue is for music.
Blues
or
for,
whatever.
that was her idea too, which is great. She was like, blues for music, this is for this is for this. And then as it draws people in, then a lot of people just disregard Twitch because they're like, I don't play games.
Yep.
Guys, I think you can do some ASMR on Twitch.
What does that stand for, yo? Like, people, I keep seeing this acronym. I am terrified of Googling new acronyms, and so I don't know what it is. Help.
I can't explain it.
I think you'll see more ways that gaming gets legitimized. I think, I already mentioned Ninja with ESPN. I think you'll see more things like celebrities like Drake being involved with esports teams and things like that. Gaming is just hot right now. Like, people are like, I don't understand it, but I think I should invest in it, is kind of
Yo, Wu-Tang hit me up the other day. I was like, what?
Yeah, I remember I was at Smite Smite World Championships, and I've gone every year. And the team that I was rooting for, I was like, oh wait, this is now Shaq's team. When did he pull through?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so I think everyone right now is just like, I'm not really sure about it, but I'm going to invest in it because it's the smart thing to do. I think you'll see more and more of that in the news. I think it's going to be more of a like a household thing that people talk about esports. You know, my brother and his wife grew up, or they have 2 boys, and they grew up with no video games, and now all they can talk about is their favorite Fortnite players and watching YouTube consistently. So it's just become this, like a household thing to talk about games, and now my brother is talking about Fortnite. He's playing it on his mobile phone just to like keep up with the conversations and things. So I think in 2 years, it'll just become more of a thing you talk about. It's not, oh, how about that game, you know, how about the Yankees? How was that game last night, or whatever. Well, how do people say it? It's like, how about them Yankees? What do people, I don't know. I don't know sports terms. But it'll be like, oh, did you see the CSGO tournament? You know, and it'll
Right.
be more consistent like that.
And before, hopefully that will lead to more inclusion. Like one of the things that I intentionally try to talk about on anytime I'm on a panel, but also just like when I look at gaming, like I'm a black kid from the inner city of Detroit, and none of my friends are in this space because that access wasn't provided to them at a young age. Hopefully, as we normalize gaming, we also see more women and more people of color and more people of non-binary positions relative to norm in any direction, because the more this gaming community can reflect what human communities look like and what the actual world looks like, the more we stop ending in this like sort of false socialization that happens online, where you see bullying and all of the ridiculous stuff that happens there, because it's just more like the real world where there's everybody represented. And it actually can be easier to be represented in interface with people that don't look like you, don't think like you, talk like you, et cetera, the more we open those doors and allow that in. And I think, so hopefully within 2 years, as gaming widens, we also have more people represented within it.
For sure.
I think that's great. That's a great statement.
It might even be easier to do that with things like V-streamers, where people that don't feel comfortable in their own skin can actually just take up an avatar. That might be crazy.
Did you want to?
Yeah, I just want to say I'm excited in 2 years to see the different formats from different types of creators, even outside of gaming. I think live streaming offers a lot in terms of not only just a new version of content, but also a promotional vehicle to support some of the VODs that you're creating, possibly a Q&A session similar to Andy Cohen on Bravo. You can do a whole Q&A after your video to discuss, you know, what was in that last episode, funny moments, things like that. And I think we're going to start seeing more and more things like that as we move along that are, you know, outside the gaming world.
Awesome. And were there any other, I know that I did see a couple other hands. We can go with you, sir.
Yeah, so first of all, I'm a big gamer and it's recreational, and so like finding out, you know, how to get involved. So I have a business and I do CBD beverages, and so you know I'm going to the esports summit and setting up a booth, but it's so hard to find, you know, people to get in there as a smaller business, not being able to pay like $100 and stuff like that. How do I get in there? What's the best practices? And like how can I target, you know, not teenagers and stuff like that? You know, and there are ways that we can target the crowd and stuff like that.
There's a whole group of highly engaged mid-tier creators that are out there that don't expect that type of money, and they want to be fed just like anyone else. I'm happy to discuss that with you after this conference. Yeah.
Same.
And a lot of the streaming networks will have ratings, and you can just switch off everyone and teen, and you can go straight to mature content and then just stalk some of those streamers, find out which ones actually have the engagement levels, see that chat room just rolling through, and if they don't have any other sponsorships, and if they're especially talking about things like CBD, yeah, pick them up.
You're also, I mean, from a very practical place, probably going to have to wait for some amount of national legislation because the internet is everywhere. So in Detroit, that's fine because cannabis is legal. Same here in LA and in Denver. But if I'm broadcasting to Iowa, there isn't like there's not a rating. There's not like, I can't say if you're 18 and up, I can talk to you about weed. And I know CBD isn't that, but the perception is still what it is relative to how we think about, you know, cannabis and any of its byproducts. I think that there's some amount of that you just have to prepare for, but I got people on my roster who would love to talk to you.
Is that a CBD energy drink or just a normal CBD like a tea or a... Cool.
Coffee. Talk to me later.
Yeah, that's cool. Sounds really cool. Any other questions here from the audience?
I hope it's called CBT.
All right.
Is it called CBT?
A branding genius.
Yeah, send a case around and
Cut her a check.
yeah. Thank you to our AV guy for not turning us on. Thank you for staying late. We appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
That's very kind of you. Thank you all to the audience and our lovely panelists here who hopefully imparted some wisdom upon you all. And I know I enjoyed it. Thank you. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you.